Good morning, everybody. Setting up right now, June 28th, for those that ask. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click all notifications for new members. If you're interested in exact entries and exits and education, we have the trading room, which will be open, looks like, for another couple days. And then we close it for a period of time. Just click the link in the description and you can take a look at what's going on in there if it's something that interests you. So I'm just going to drop this link in a bunch of different places, the Twitterverse, and then in the trading room, and then we will go from there. Hold on 1 second, and then we will begin. Click over here. Drop this down. Click here. And go from there. And that's pretty much it. All right, good. 1 second. All right, that's done. And that's done. If you could also do me a favor when you come in the room, I purposely do not run ads. So if you could do me a favor and please like this video, it helps with the algorithm and supports the channel. I would appreciate it. So let's go out there and drop this in the Twitterverse. Coffee and charts. Q&A. All right. And just drop in MLCO and LBS. All right, good. That's done. All right, let's get to it. Good morning, Jen. What's going on, John? Let's do this. Agreed. So I think the biggest issue for me, just looking at what I'm focused on, I have a short position I put on this yesterday, and this inflection point right here, I went over this in last night's video, but this inflection point right here, here, I mean, support and resistance have been flipping at 750 for some time now. And that's a concern. Now, my concern yesterday is that this should have ran. We should have went up. Instead, that's not what happened. So the close was 737. This close was 734. So we clearly closed below it. You're bidding up a little bit today. I'm not really sure what happens here, but maybe you get an inside day, maybe you don't. But I want to see that break with my short. If I don't take out a lower low today, maybe I'll close it, maybe I won't. But I'm really curious how this shakes out today because this is a major inflection point. My gut is to sit back, watch, and wait this position because every single one of these rallies that has come up has failed. So we should have broken out and kept pushing yesterday. That's what should have happened if we were going to continue higher. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound like rocket science, but when you're getting to these levels that are clear resistance points and you're resisting, you need to be really careful what you're doing because all we've been doing is rallying and rolling back down, rallying and rolling back down. So we're trying to go on the assumption that we're done doing that. And I'm not so sure that we are done doing that. So you almost have to go on the assumption that that's going to continue, right? And if you can trade off those bottoms, that's great. And then you kind of go from there. So that's where I'm at. I really want to watch the opening and watch these levels and see if we push. And if we do push and then people want to be involved, that's what they should be using as levels. It's the good news about where we're at is it's very clear where the levels are. I think the China news on COVID is pretty interesting. The MLCO is, I think they're based in Singapore, and they have huge exposure to Macau, probably larger than anybody else out there on a percentage basis. You look like you're about to break a higher high and flip. You can get back to 11. You could get back to 11 there. I like that trade, actually, because people want to own it. When you're going to be dealing with some issues here in Vegas as well, but you're just kind of making lower lows the whole time. So I'm not really crazy about that one, but they could all benefit This one makes a little more sense, the undercut, and maybe we can rally and point up. So they make the most sense if you're trying to figure out how to play what's going on in China. Other than that, it's just all the energy names are set to go higher again. So, to see how they go. BPT's breaking out. I'm not so sure I'm going to chase this up 5%. I like buying this when it's down. Now that I know I have a trading range right here, since I broke that wedge, I'll let this trade down and then I'll get involved. Or I'll get involved when it takes a new high out. But I don't mind just letting it bounce around in here while it tries to figure out what it's going to do. But if this takes out that high, then, all bets are off because you'd have like over a month base. So we're going to have to really just see how we open here more than anything. Let's go. So that's pretty much, John, where my head is. What's going on, Steven? Off for 2 weeks. Away. I don't even know what that means. I agree. Trade to win. Get in the game. Good morning, Sheltered. I don't think someone's going to buy Hood. I really don't. So here's your issue with Hood, right? There's a couple key issues you have to deal with. Number one, okay, they don't make money. Number two, they lose more money every month on their clients than they lost the month before. Number three, they're depleting their cash. Number four, you have the SEC that is talking about closing pay for order flow. They're talking about shutting it down. So if they shut that down, they essentially are putting Hood out of business. So I don't think like the only buyer out there that makes sense is FTX, right? They're the only ones that make sense. And I don't see them doing it. I really don't. He took a stake in the company. I think he took a stake, kind of looked at it. I was like, okay, we'll take a stake in it. But I really don't think that that's something that they're going to be looking at and getting involved with. So it's just my thought on it. Just where my head is with it. I would not be chasing that. What's going on, Ahmed? What's going on, Chuck? Hey, John. AEP calls. Yep, let's do AEP calls. So I don't know which ones you own or which ones you're thinking about. I think it's realistic to assume in 2 to 3 months that you get back to this level. I think that's a fair assumption. I think it's a fair assumption that you're going to do something like this. Maybe you go up, back down, right? Up. You can just do something like this. But I do think you're getting back to that level. This drop was based upon the 10-year and how the 10-year came in. Now the 10-year sells off again. Maybe these collapse again. But, you're going to get something wonky here. But I think you're going to trade up to there, which gives you 6-7 points. So if you're going to look at that and say, I can do that in a couple months, yeah, that could make sense. I mean, the inflection was back here. Sorry, let me just put that. Let me just grab another one, be easier. So your inflection was right there. Let's remove that. So that's what I would focus on, that as an inflection. That's the most important thing for me to focus on. So that's what I would tell you to focus on as well. I really don't see a sense to do, anything else there. But I mean, maybe you can make some money off of them, maybe not. I don't know. You're going to have to look at them, but there's like 5 points there, 6 points there. Maybe you can grab it. Maybe that's something that's grabbable. Let's see what's going on here. Thoughts on Amazon? Yeah, let's do Amazon. So, yeah. So, I mean, like here, Jen, here's your line. I mean, you're at an inflection point even there. Like here, look, you got right to the top of that bar and just reject it. So I like it long term. I still have leaps outstanding on it, but I'm looking out months. And I just don't want to keep playing with it. So I don't see a sense to do anything with that here. Now, these could be setting up to start breaking out and forming bases, right? Pulling back, forming bases. Like there's that whole section of the market that we haven't gone through yet that you have to realize is still out there. Now, let's get rid of these indexes. But if you got to just take that into account, like up, flat, down, eventually you go flat again, right? And that's when this gets boring. And we're kind of getting boring for the past couple of days, if you noticed. So that might mean that we're going to just start trading flat. I have a hard time believing that we're not going to retest these levels on all these names. I have a really hard time believing that watching yesterday's action. So I would think, I don't know that you're going to get back to, what was the low, 618. Yeah, I don't know that you're going to get back to that, but you start breaking down, you just get these overbought, oversold conditions, right? So let's take a look at Amazon. I'll show you what I mean. Let's click on this, and we're going to click on RSI. So all you're really doing, if you look at this, let's clear all these levels out so we can see all this. All we're really doing, like Jen, like take a look at RSI, gets back to break even, comes down, gets back to break even, which is the 50 line, comes down. That's not really a ringing endorsement. Now, the only thing that you could say is, well, this is getting tighter, while from this data point, you're just going flat. And the answer would be, you're right? So could you say that's a positive divergence? You could probably say that. Yeah, you could probably say that. So I think that's interesting. I think it's something you have to take into account. I'm not sure what you do about that, right? So I'm not so sure you have to get involved right here. Like for me, I'm already involved. I mean, I have leaps, but I mean, it's pretty clear where your support line is. It's pretty clear you ran right into it. I mean, that could be a little tighter, couldn't it? So, I mean, that's just insane how tight that is and how perfect that is. So eventually you're going to flip these. Now, is that today? I have no idea, but you're at an inflection point across the entire market. And what I would argue is the last time we were at an inflection point in the market, nobody believed it either, right? Here, when we broke that level, I put shorts on in the room, and the amount of like backlash, not backlash, but like questioning was pretty interesting. I'm like, why would you do that here? We're basing, that's a flag. And then this happened. And that's what's happening here. That's what you have to understand. Like you go up 3-4 days, then you go sideways for 10 or 7, and then you break down, and then that entire move is gone in 2-3 days. So you have to be ahead of the moves. So my advice to people is to watch these levels today. Watch the low of yesterday. If you break that low of yesterday, assume something like this could happen. Now, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's shallower and this is the end of it. We just don't know. But there's nothing about this channel that I just drew right there that says that this is over. I don't know what that's doing. So, but in regards to Amazon, I mean, it doesn't get any cleaner. So I would just watch and see what's going on there. How would you enter something? Oh, you can't buy that off the open. I mean, you can do anything you want, Shane. I mean, to me, what I would do with this is go, I'm up 10 cents. I would look at this and go, I'm going to get people here for sure, right? Whoever bought at 640 is the level, right? Whoever bought it like 640 that opening day, they won out, right? They bought it. They've been in for 2 weeks. They thought it was going to break out. It didn't. So they won out, right? So what I like here about this is this. And then on top of that, I'm breaking out. So this is telling me that I could push, right? I mean, that's aligned perfectly. I'm above the 50 and I'm pushing higher. So I'm above this here. Like, look, let me show you. So I like that a lot. I like how that whole thing is lined up. I mean, it's lined up really nice, right? So that means the momentum, the velocity is changing, right? Because that's what RSI is, right? I mean, for those that don't know or those that do know, it's refresher. It's determining the momentum and magnitude of, well, the magnitude of the move, which is the size of the move and the velocity of the move. Well, when that goes higher, that's a good thing, right? You hit points where it gets too low and you bounce, but it's better when it's going up and you're over the 50 if you're a trader. So what do I would like to see? I don't know. Where'd we open yesterday, right? We opened at 620, 580 was the close. I mean, if I could get this under 6, I think it's a layup to give this a try and see how it goes, right? You have to pick this off the same way that we picked off, if you're in, for those that are in the trading room, you have to pick that off the same way that we picked off LABU. You have to pick it off when people aren't looking at it, right? When we picked this off, I think we picked it off like here or here, one of these little moves, right? Got in at like 430 or 450 with a 430 stop. I have to go look exactly where. But what you're doing is you're trying to get up and in with a tight stop. And this we got in for 20 cents and made like $3 on. That's the same thing you're trying to do here. You're trying to get in for like 50 cents, right? You're trying to get in with this as your stop, right? 580. So if that's my stop, because I mean, if you took out yesterday's close on positive news, then there's maybe we're missing something, right? Like that's not a crazy thing. So if I could get in this at 6 and I'm in this for 20 cents, I mean, I'll do that all day long. I can do a huge position in that at that level, enormous 20 cents, because now I'm just looking for this to go from like 6 to 7 or 8, right? And if I go to 7 from 6, and that's my risk, I'm at 5 to 1. I mean, you could sell all or some of it at that level, and then just move the stop right back up behind you on the rest of it to break even, and you might have a free trade for the year on something like that, right? So something to think about. But I like that chain. What's going on, John? PBR, I would just avoid, Servathia. PBR, I would completely avoid. You see that level right here? And now you're going to rally up. Just watch that. Watch this level. I mean, maybe you get there, maybe you don't. Could this bounce? It could. I think there's too many issues with the election and what's going on with Colombia. You had riots, I think, in Ecuador. I think there's too much uncertainty right now in that whole space. So just kind of watch this. I wouldn't be. I think there's better names, Servathia. MPLN, massive selling, just brushed it up. Maybe it's done. Maybe the selling's done. So, yeah. I don't really see that massive a selling. I mean, I guess this day is what you're talking about. It did kind of blow it off. Was there news? I'm not sure what they do, to be honest with you. I mean, I could look it up, but. I mean, I think you have a lot of stuff in here. You got resistance right here. I mean, you should be able to see this, and then I can just, right, you got resistance right there. You got a lot going on there. So sometimes it's just helpful to drop in like a volume by price and see if you're right. And you can see these spikes right into that. You are over point of control. You are over the VWAP, which is, both of those are good, right? You actually came back, retested VWAP and went higher. If I could get through 638, that might be interesting to me. I actually think it's a little higher than where I'm at. I would use the top of this. So I would use this. So maybe I'd use 650, 655, something like that before I get involved. Make sure I can get through this area. See that right there? And then if I can get through that, then it's all gravy. Like that's your move. Like that's the way that I would look at it, because then you have all this. I mean, there's no selling here, right? And there's no buying and selling in here versus here. And this is going all the way back to here. So it's including all of it. So that just tells you how easy that is, right? I mean, the good thing about this, I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, you just have people that are like, I don't want to sell till I'm break even, right? Like that's some people's mentality. So if they're thinking that, then they might not want to sell yet. So something to think about. DCPH. Again, please like this video. It helps me with the algorithm and supports the channel. I purposely don't run ads during these, so not to waste anyone's time. Yeah, I don't know why it broke down. You know, I mean, here's the thing about it. It has the name Pharmaceuticals in it. I don't know this company at all. Has the name Pharmaceuticals in it, right? Broke down. So when we broke down, there must have been news, right? There's a reason that we did that. Okay, earnings. So they made some kind of announcement that day that didn't go very well. Now, since then you're basing, but it doesn't get any cleaner than 14 bucks. I mean, you can't really be buying it unless you're over 14. And the one time you got over 14, you pulled right back. So that's not really what we want to see, right? So I would watch that. That's not something I'd get involved with. If I could flip that, maybe, yeah. I mean, if you could flip that, buds, then maybe, right? Maybe you try it. I don't know if you know why it gapped down. And now you're going into earnings again. You have some time, not till August. You have some time. So I don't know if it's a flat kind of day, Jack. What's going on, Jack? But I mean, I'm not chasing anything. What I would say is I'm noticing that the things that are bidding up are already coming back down, unless they're in a sector that begins with an E and ends in a Y, which is pretty much the only sector that I'm focused on for like longer term longs. That and pharmaceutical names to me look like they're just going to go through the roof. I mean, they just. I mean, look at these names. So, it's just crazy. So when you see stuff like that and you see movement into these kinds of names, you need to pay attention, because that's investors that are wanting to be in the market, but are trying to figure out how they're going to protect their capital. So the majority of people are leaning towards this is going to break down. So like this is very interesting to me. I showed this. I'll show you guys as well. I showed this in the trading room, but just FYI, like that 150 level, you might want to start putting a 150 simple moving average in your charts. Seems to be working. I mean, the purpose of technical analysis is not to be rigid, right? The purpose is to like be fluid and understand what's working now, not what's worked in the past. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's how we changed from an 8 to a 10, right? A 10 to an 8 on them, because we started to focus on what's working. That's why I keep telling everyone focus on the 5-day right now, because that's what's working. Right? There'll be a point where that doesn't work, or works less, I should say. Right? So where's my head? What am I thinking? I mean, I think you're at an inflection point, Jack. Like, I think that we could roll right back down. Maybe you form a flag and you form under this level and then you push higher. But you think that you're going to stay flat on Tesla? I don't see how that's going to I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I don't see how we just don't, drop 20 points. I mean, there's no reason for this to be here. I think people are grossly underestimating what's going on in Germany and what's going on with oil and the problems that have been created by just, it's not a political statement. It's just policy issues. Global policy energy is just, it's insane how silly it is. What's interesting too is the G7 has come out and said that they're probably going to get rid of their ban on funding fossil fuels. And I don't think that there's a choice. There's not, unless you want to be beholden to Russia and Saudi Arabia for eternity. So it's definitely something that needs to be focused on. Therefore, I think that you're going to see the energy sector move as people start to understand this a little bit more. And I'll just throw this out there again. You might want to start using a 150 on your charts. So, that it seems to be a pattern that is developing, right? That's all we do as technicians, is look for patterns to trade and make money from. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what day it is, brother. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. That's what I'm looking at. Oxy. Yeah, Utu. I mean, yesterday, this was the issue that I had with it. Here, look. Doji, right? So you get 60, 59.93, right? You see that number up there, 59.93, flips the Doji, 60.50 goes up, gives me this wonky bar here. I'm like, oh, we could roll. Now today you're up 4% from that level. I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to chase it. It's my favorite name in the space because I know I have a buyer. We know where that buyer is. We know they're at 54 and they're just accumulating and accumulating. And eventually they're going to take it private, is what he's going to do. I don't know if it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now, but eventually this will just be in Berkshire Hathaway. But what you're seeing is this. All right, so if you can get back up to that level, that would be great. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't chase it. I'll leave it at that. I wouldn't chase it, Utu. I mean, I can't be any clearer. We're not. You won't see me chasing that this morning. I do like it though. Google and Amazon, sure, Beast. So let's get rid of this. So actually, I was showing this yesterday. I'll just show it to you again. So, I mean, it doesn't get any cleaner, right? And where, whoops. Oh, what I was trying to do is move that. Let's move that back up here. So we came to the line. We were supposed to break out and we rejected. Now, do we reject that line or do we push higher? I have no idea, but I know you're at an inflection point, right? That's all I know right now. I know we're at an inflection point. We're over the 50 and you're sitting right there. Does it push? I have no idea. If I had to tell you, I would be looking at the longer term chart and saying, no, it doesn't push. It rolls back down. That's where my head would be, right? Because you have to take a look at the dominant trend, right? So eventually that trend will end, but trying to pick when that's going to end is going to be really difficult. So if you look at this on a weekly, you can just see this level pretty clean. I'm not really sure why I did it that way, but right there, you can see that level pretty clean since back here in April. You've been having an issue, right? So, bonk, bonk, bonk. I mean, we're having a real issue here. So eventually, yeah, do I think you break that? Yeah, eventually I think you do. Is that today? I'm not so sure. But, the other thing I keep trying to point out to people is I like that you made the higher low. And the one thing I keep pointing out to people on Google is, some of these names are going to go back to levels that you haven't seen since 2020. Some names are not. Like to me, Google. Okay, if you look at this, and I always show this, here's $10 on Google. Here's 25 on Google. My earnings are up 2.5 times in 2 years. So to think that Google's going to just drop back down to that level is probably not realistic. Versus if you look at something like an Amazon and you go, well, earnings before all this were 32 cents, and now we're at 37 cents. So can Amazon drop down to here? Yeah, Amazon can get back down to 90. I could see someone making that argument. Sure. Right. Now I'm long Amazon through leaps, but I have a sloping 50-day that whenever time I get near after it broke, I sell down. So I'm not in a big hurry here to, rush into that. And that's something that people have to think about. So out of all of them, I think you have a W there for sure, Beast. Like there's definitely a W there. Here, look. I mean, you're 100% right, but you're stopping there. Oops. So does this go like this, right? Or does this go like this and then go like that? We have no idea yet. We just don't know. So I don't know if it's going to be that or it's going to be this, right? And so we're going to have to wait and see. I would say the news coming out of Target where they're looking at paying people to keep the merchandise, even if they want to return it, and they're thinking of paying people to do that versus taking it into inventory, should scare the heck out of everybody that's in the consumer discretionary space. So that would scare the heck out of me. So I would be, you can see, like, let's just walk through this. You see this chart? I mean, it doesn't get any more exact, right? Consumer discretionary, Amazon. So you should be watching that. Now look at Google. It's a different chart, right? And Google's up 2.5 times its revenue or its earnings. So that's an easy trade. That's an easy one if you're looking at a short-term trade to go to Google and not Amazon. I hope that helps. Let me get a little more coffee here, man. Give me a second. I've been drinking these cold brew things. They're actually really good. So in regards to, where are we here? You're not wrong about that at all. It is data processing. So yeah, I would watch that level too. I mean, let's go back to this MPLN for Sean and talk about this for a minute. You have potential here. You just got to watch that area. So just make sure you clear it. Like, do you need the 40 cents that bad? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're better off just waiting, because if it gets up here, then you could hit it, pull back, second mouse position, all of that, right? I mean, that's what we want. So, what's going on, mommy? Two boys. Yeah, I'm long VRTX. I like the space. It absolutely could not break and roll right back down. Absolutely. And what you want to do is look for signs of that, right? So if you're not willing, like we bought this at 281.75, came up to 293. We made 10 points. Some people took it if they wanted to. Some people just are staying with the trade. I don't like, if I'm building a position, I don't like trying to keep getting in and out. But this made your life really easy, right? Like this position right here, like your life just got so simple on trying to figure out what to do with this, because this is an inside bar. And this is not, it's a wonky one, but it's there. It's kind of like a bearish harami, not really, right? You might want to watch that candlestick video if you haven't, where you go over those 3 patterns. Links in the description. But it's not perfect, right? Life's not perfect, and we know that, right? So you come down here and you hit 286.70. And if you break that level, 286.70, you kind of have to think that you might have a problem and that you're going to come back down to this level. Now, whether or not that's a double top or not, I would be more concerned if I broke out and pushed, right? I'll give you a great example. Like I bought this yesterday and I'm down in it a little bit because it backed off. But this is like the simplest trade in the world, right? If I break that, I'm out. Like it's not rocket science. You know, you're not going to win on every trade. But if I'm trying to make 10, 15 points, I'm going to have to risk 2 or 3, right? Here, I'm trying, am I willing to risk this going all the way back down? Maybe. But I'd watch that level because you've been here before. Now, there are some distinctions. Let's just say you close right here. Okay, you're going to close right at this level where you closed 3 times before. That's going to bother me, right? I don't want to close at the same level. Today's the 28th. I've got 3 days left. So I want to flip that level and I want to push. And if I don't do that, that's going to bother me when the monthly charts come out. So I hope that helps, mommy. But I would not buy that sector right now. Like you're seeing, you're seeing a ton of money flow into the sector, like a ton. And I was really surprised by it yesterday. I mean, like you're looking at like BMY and, even these names, they're breaking out, hitting highs. Amgen, like these kinds of names, yeah, we're at inflection points and maybe they're tired and they roll, right? You've had 6 days, 5 days of up. That's usually when we start getting tired, right? You're in a trade and you're up 5, 6 days in a row. It might be time to, pull some money out. You're better off doing the inflection points and going from there. But what I'm getting at is this. I'm getting at the fact that you need to kind of take a look at what's going on out there and see if you can push a little bit higher. And I think that this sector can. The sector makes a lot of sense to me because you need drugs. You're not going to be worried about inflation with drugs. If you need the drug, you're going to do whatever it takes to get the drug, right? That's a very different model than saying, hey, I need a new GPU. Hey, I need that 3080 Ti. It's a very different model. So is this a double top? I don't know. I'm betting that it's not. I'll leave it at that, right? I mean, look at my volume. Look at that volume. Like you can bet it's a double top, but I'm not sure it is yet. And that's perfect double top like area, right, mommy? So like here, look. I mean, this was like perfect, right? This is when it broke out. It was really going to go Ruku, and then boom, that was it. So could it happen? Sure. It could pull a Ruku. Absolutely. That's why you use stops. But I'd watch that little flip if you were concerned. Hope that helps. Hey, Debazian. Caterpillar. There's your support level. I mean, it depends. I've got 17 levels right in here. Let's remove all of these. So I mean, here's your undercut, right? Yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? One huge megaphone here, man. Here, you can probably go back to here with this. Yeah, I mean, I think you could bounce pretty hard there. I wonder where you are in the bands. Yeah, you bounced out of the bands and you're back in. I think this could bounce. If you're willing to wait like weeks with the trade like this, these kinds of names, this is when you buy them. They're value names. But from here to here, to get back to that 21 day, which is really with the mean of the Bollinger Band, 20 points, that's doable. That could happen. Let's see. We got give me 1 second. I like that Debazian if you're looking long term. I don't think they're going to get bought, Jack. I really don't. I think it's a pipe dream. If anyone's going to buy them, it's FTX, and they're silly if they do. There's too many issues, in my opinion. They could build a better business on their own just from scratch. That's my opinion of it. ET, let's take a look. I mean, I wouldn't go near that. Something's going on with that. Like, here, throw these indicators in. Let's get rid of, we're going to throw the 150 in. I'd be careful there. Let's get rid of the bands. See? Pops over that, drops back down, breaks right here, breaks right here. Like, look. So you can start seeing these levels, like you start seeing them in your sleep when you just look at them long enough. But see that right in there, and like how you ran right into that, like that's not where you want to be, is it? Maybe if you can flip the 150 and you can push, but I guarantee that the 21's cutting into that, right? So let's just make this a 21 now. Yeah. So, right. I mean, you get to the point where you can just actually tell where these lines are, but you see how you're crossing. I don't know. I want to play with that. I think there's better energy names out there. I'm not really sure what this is. I'm not sure if there's a different like wonky form that you get for taxes that is making people not that interested in this one. I'm not familiar with it. So I'm just speculating, but this is not high on my list. Where's my volume? Where's my interest? So, let's just keep going. What's up, Patel? You know what I've been drinking a lot of in the mornings? I drink strong coffee, it's called. And in it, they inject, somehow they have protein in it. And it's like a latte. It's like delicious. Now it's just, I got on these Jocko Goes, black cherry and vanilla. And they are like 15 calories. They're delicious. And it's like just enough energy to keep it smooth without making me like jittery. So I like them. They're cheap too. It's not much. It's like $3. Good morning. What's going on, Tree? Yin, China Bull. Let's take a look. I don't know. I think you're jumping ahead, right? Do we want to jump ahead? We're up 5% already. Do we want to buy things when they're up 5%? Probably not, right? Probably want to wait. I do think it's good that they're opening, and I do think you're going to see money flow into them. So, but I don't know that I'd want to buy that right away. You know, FCX will probably, FXI will go higher. KWeb will go higher. So, but you just got to watch them. I mean, the time to buy these is when they're down, not when they're up. So just be careful going there and going long. That's all I would say. I'm not crazy about buying those. Yesterday's action bothered me, man. It bothered me a lot yesterday. We should have better action in these names yesterday, so I can leave it. MO, buy here. Mark, I think so. I mean, I think so. This is just ridiculous. Like they've never missed. I was going through it. Okay, since they've been out, okay, in the 70s, they've never missed a dividend payment. Never. So, like, if you look at this, yes, you're stepping down. Yes, step me down. But if you look at this and you realize the yield that you're getting, like, I just think it's insane. Some people, you know, they have like, oh, I'm not going to buy that because I don't want to contribute to the company. And people buying, look, people are going to buy cigarettes whether or not you own Philip Morris. Okay, whether or not you own Altria Group, whether or not you own BTI, people are going to buy cigarettes. They're entitled to do whatever the heck they want with their lives, right? So I'm not supporting it, but to think that you own this stock and therefore you're making people smoke is just silly to me. But it has that connotation, so that when it gets hit hard. But yeah, when this gets hit like this, if you can take like a year outlook, buy it. I'll never forget when the pandemic hit, the number one stock I told everybody to buy, and they're like, of all the stocks, why? I'm like, they've never missed a dividend payment. Back here in March, it was paying 11%. I said, buy it, sit with it for a year. Ran up, we did okay with it, right? Came back down, never broke that low. Meanwhile, we're getting 11%. This is when oil went negative, remember? And now, you know, oil went to zero. Nobody wanted oil. And here you are, right? So I really think it's something to think about. I really do. So it's definitely, for me, it's something to think about. I'm very interested in those dividend long-term plays when they break down like that. So yeah, Mark, I do. I think there's something to that. Looking to add some dividend stocks like VZ. I would be careful with Coke. I mean, if I had to buy dividend yielding stocks, to me, if I something I want to do, I think Verizon makes more sense than AT&T. But when you need to buy these is when nobody wants them, like here. Because now you're up 10% in the trade and you're getting a dividend, right? So you're probably you're if it just stays here, you make 15%. But you know, they're losing clients left and right. You know, you got to watch AT&T. Like, don't do AT&T. People are always like, oh, just dollar cost average in AT&T. I mean, all you've done is bleed. Like you're down. Like it doesn't work. Dollar cost averaging, if the stock's not going stagnant and their business is losing, it doesn't work. So that's not really going to work there. You know, Coke, I would be concerned about, only because I think people are getting away from those kinds of drinks. I think people are starting to get a little smarter with their core product, and that's a problem. Now, they're in every country in the world. I'm not saying it's going away. I just don't think that's one that I would focus on. I would focus on something that's sustainable that people want. Now, eventually oil will come in, but I would be focusing. It's like if I wanted to buy dividends right now, Exxon, CVX, I mean, I'd be buying this. I get $1 a quarter, right? I have no position in this right now, but you get $1 every quarter right now. As long as oil's over 100, you're getting 20% on your money. You know, people are buying stable coins to get what BP's trust is throwing off. It's silly. So that's kind of where my head is sheltered. Thoughts on snow? That space looks actually fairly good. I like that. I'd watch the 50-day. See if you flip. You might flip today. You have to watch these. That's 150. You want to see 152 and a quarter. It looks like you might get it off the open. That could go. Software could go. I was watching this too. I like this one better, crowd. I like it better just because it already cleared the higher high and the 50. This has not. Doesn't mean it doesn't. Doesn't mean it doesn't push. This could absolutely go. I know people, some people actually upgraded this in this market, which is kind of interesting. I would be using, for any tech names, I would be using Tesla as my barometer because it's trading just like the market. So it's just trading like the market on steroids. And I'd be watching that, even for my software buys. You know, DRV, I think that it's going to be a great trade. I really do. It's just, I need the exhaustion, and I may have gotten the exhaustion yesterday, right? So now I've got a doji down here. Let's flip that doji 48.20 and see what we can do. Right? That's what I'm saying. If I can flip that doji today, maybe I get involved. Seems like a simple enough trade, right? Try to catch that, see if I can catch that bounce. Seems simple enough to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, you're welcome, Mark. When I like. When I like, that could move, but you just got to be careful. Like where you're going to get 64, 65. You're already at 61.5. You're already there. You're already up that 6%. I like it for the trade, but maybe let it go flat first, Cameron. I think that's a matter of time. That how are you going to? So they put a ban on parties. How are you going to stop that? How are you going to enforce that ban? Okay, you have keyless entry, and the people that own the house aren't there. So, if you buy a party house for people to have parties in, and then they go there, I don't agree. I think that's going to be an issue. I don't really see that. I would be more interested in this and that volume. Eventually people are going to travel. So, all right, I got to jump, everybody. Please like the video. If you're interested in joining the trading room, there's a link in the description. And I think we're open for another 2 or 3 days. So that's it. Everybody, trade to win today.